Hi, welcome to High Growth with HTDC. I'm your host, Cindy Matsuki, and we're on ThinkTech Hawaii. And HTDC is Hawaii's tech evangelist, where we support anything entrepreneurship, tech, innovation, and manufacturing. And this is the place where we want to share everyone's stories, because there's so many amazing things going on in Hawaii. And speaking of amazing things, my guest today is Rich Bailey, and we are Skyping with him from Kona. He is the owner of Dewpoint Systems. So thank you, Rich, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So tell us what Dewpoint Systems is, and how did the company start?
Well, I had the opportunity to work at the Natural Energy Lab with Dr. Craven and Dr. Davidson. And Dr. Craven is the founder of the Natural Energy Lab back in 1971. Wow. And a brilliant man, and had an opportunity to start working with him in 2000 when I moved my family over here to Kona from Oahu. Both my wife and I used to work for Sea Grant college program at the University of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And we worked with Dr. Craven for a number of years and were able to refine the technology to get it to where we got our patent. And I'm fortunate to be patent holder with Dr. Craven and Dr. Davidson. And that company, through the turmoil of the downing of the economy, kind of went down. So that is no longer in operation. Mm-hmm. But what I have done is taken the technology with the blessings of Dr. Davidson and Craven and developed Dewpoint Systems as a company to launch into the next tier of possibilities, and that's trying to look at how to take the technology even beyond using deep ocean water as a cold thermal energy source. And so what I need to do is now talk about the technology. So it was a technology developed over 20 years ago. In the last 4 years, I developed Dewpoint Systems LLC, and now I've gone to a point where I'm refining the technology to launch it commercially.
Oh, great.
So the technology, is that the next question? Obviously, everybody knows about that one. Yes. Is in a way very innovative in thinking. What we've done is taking the cold, deep ocean water, chilled the soil around the plant, and that mimics springtime conditions that is commonly seen in the northern and southern latitudes of the earth, where in spring you get this rapid growth of plants. So here we are able to mimic that whole process by chilling water or chilling the soil with cold ocean water, which is kind of a very novel approach. And so it's not just the chilling of the soil, but it's also the addition of irrigation.
At the same time?
At the same time. And so it's a twofold or two-pronged approach. It's biological, I say, in creating a springtime growth environment, but it's also physical in the fact that the soil now acts as a condenser, which is just like a cold drink in your hand. Out in the tropics, it sweats. So if the soil is colder than that dew point, it actually sweats and becomes moist. So the plant is actually, soil around the plant is actually being irrigated from the air.
Wow, as well as being chilled at the same time.
As well as being chilled, and chilled being cold roots and a warm leaf. And that's what happens during spring, as far as in nature. And so we can actually control that and actually regulate plant growth by controlling those environments.
Wow, so basically you can tell the plant when springtime is.
We turn them on and off, literally, physically, thermally, turn them on and off.
That's amazing. And how, so do you have to have the same kind of length of the season for spring for the plants to fruit or to actually think that it's spring?
What we've actually been able to do is compress the season into, let's say, for example, our grapes, which I've got pictures for you guys.
Yes, let's bring up the pictures.
Compress the seasons from literally pruning to harvest in 120 days. And then we thermally shut them off, and we can actually start that whole process again. And a plant doesn't need a downtime of so many days like typically is found in grape growing areas.
Really? It'll just fruit again?
It'll fruit again. It just automatically turns it back on. So seasonality does have a very big influence on plants in their locales, but we've been able to take that whole concept and artificially mimic that process using thermal energy.
Wow, and those grapes look really nice. Are those just table grapes, eating grapes?
No, those are actually an old world wine grape. It's an Isabella grape. It's not a very high value grape, but it does show that the grapes can grow very well using this technology. These grapes were actually brought to Hawaii as rootstock in 1997 and were grown down at our original spot using only seawater until 2010. Then 2010, I picked them up and moved them up to the Gateway Center at the Natural Energy Lab where they now live. And it's, I tell you, every time they have a cycle, I'm just amazed on how fast they grow. It's just unbelievable.
Wow, that's kind of cool that you can get the plants to do that.
Yes.
Interesting. I have some other pictures of some graphs. Maybe you can kind of explain how that works. So the first graph is
temperature?
It's red and blue. It says muggy.
Okay, that's the humidity one. So on that graph, you can see that in Hawaii, the relative humidity is fairly high, fairly constant throughout the season. Okay, it doesn't vary, but maybe 10 or 15%. And so that is on an ideal situation in which there's enough atmospheric moisture in the air to capture at a very high temperature.
To water the plants.
To water the plants. So in our area, the dew point runs between 55 and 75 degrees. So you need an energy source that needs to produce 55 degrees of cold.
I see.
So if you can control the humidity, which we can easily increase humidity, we can actually increase the dew point. Thus, the energy required to get something very cold is not as great now either.
Oh, and that's
the
name of the company.
Exactly. So in even a more hot, humid environment, it's even more cost effective.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. This is High Growth with HTDC. My guest is Rich Bailey, owner of Dewpoint Systems, and we are on ThinkTech Hawaii, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Seymour Kazimirski. I have a show called Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. Our show is about opening minds and facilitating conversations. To tell you the truth, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. I have no idea who our guests are going to be, but I guarantee you we're going to have lots and lots of fun. Aloha from Seymour's World.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday. Aloha.
Hi, welcome back. This is High Growth with HTDC. I'm your host, Cindy Matsuki, and we are talking today with Rich Bailey, owner of Dewpoint Systems, and he is Skyping in with us from Kona, and he's talking to us about his technology that is actually really geared towards climate change, which is interesting because things are turning that way. And you wanted to mention another technology, Rich, that you're working on as well?
Yeah, climate change is going to affect traditional ways of doing agriculture. Okay, it's either by temperature or by rain or lack of rain or the sources of the water that they might have currently available just in climate change and population growth. So everybody's looking for new ways to get clean, secure, fresh water. And one of the approaches that we have done is actually to look at the atmosphere. The atmosphere holds 7% of the world's freshwater resource. And that's something that's available almost universally. In some desert zones, obviously there's not enough humidity, but around the coastal zones, which is, you know, how much of the earth is mostly around the water of the oceans, there's enough humidity to actually grasp in collecting it in condensate. And I was talking about Dewpoint Systems and the name Dewpoint. It's all related to dew point. The higher the dew point temperature, the more humidity you have, and actually the least amount of cold you actually need to grab it. Okay? So that's an interesting concept. So we've developed systems that are linear and modular in our approach as far as being able to scale up in development. And that has been important as far as looking at using alternative energies and how much of that do we need to satisfy the project.
Okay. That's great, because I think things are changing, definitely.
Yeah, what it is, it's opening up new opportunities where right now there's nothing happening. As far as agriculture and fresh water. I mean, right now we're tapping the ocean for fresh water. And that takes a lot of energy. I mean, granted, there's a lot of fresh water in that ocean, but you get a lot of discharge and other pollutants that you have to deal with.
A ton of energy. That's right.
It takes a ton of energy and a lot of mechanics. And so our approach has been to go scale big and use less energy and less maintenance.
I wanted to ask you, since you're in Kona, what are the benefits and challenges to being in Kona? And even in Hawaii in general, that you've seen?
Well, I mean, for one, I mean, communicating and getting closer to you guys is one. But, you know, just everything logistically wise, you know, we're on a neighbor island. Honolulu's the hub. Everything goes in Honolulu first and then comes here. So that's one. And then, you know, being on an outer island, or neighbor island, I should say, getting people to come over and actually get more investment over here and try to link more Honolulu with the other islands as far as businesses and just more presence. And business has to be done one-to-one or face-to-face. I see that as having a lot of merit. And Skype is one thing. This is new for me. And that opens up new avenues. But really to do business one-on-one and understanding the personality of the people you're working with helps the small businessman. And being farther away from the hub is a little more difficult.
That's true. That's true. Do you find any benefits to being in Kona?
Yes, I think there's a lot of benefits because I believe agriculture in general and the industry that I'm in, the Big Island has more opportunity, more land available, maybe more affordable land available, more opportunity to be a model site for potential opportunities throughout the Pacific and elsewhere. I think Hawaii, the Big Island has all that opportunity to do that. And with the new West Hawaii campus coming into play, with UH here, that will open up more opportunities to introduce Nelha to education.
And you're located at Nelha.
Right. Nelha is, I think, an ideal site for research for University of Hawaii, which does some limited research there. It's just it's amazing that they're not more engaged in opportunities that to help Pacific in other alternative energy resources. It's a big investment for another place, but it doesn't have to be huge investments. They've already demonstrated in Japan and in other places that small pipe systems are a great benefit in saving huge amounts of energy in seawater air conditioning.
Oh, that's interesting. And there's a lot going on at Nelha. I mean, there have been a lot of different projects that have come through Nelha
lots of projects at Nelha. One of the premier ones right now is Mackay Engineering, looking at the next generation of OTEC, ocean thermal energy conversion. But then there's the old standbys. It's the, the abalone company that's been there for many years, the lobster farm,
the water,
the deep water cage culture operations. They're the anchors. Cyanotech. They've been there for 30-something years. So Nellha's not a new place. It's a rising star that's starting to develop.
Yeah, that's great. And I know there's lots of changes going on. What can we look forward to next with Dewpoint Systems?
Well, the next step is I'm looking at trying to expand my, modest R&D to a little more sizable commercial operation that can show much more potential and
the scalability.
And that's why I've done a modular approach. The other next step is to also look at linking with solar, thermal, and PV power sources to show that I can go pretty much off the deep water pipeline, not reliant on it, to do any kind of ag or freshwater production system, literally in the middle of the lava flats if need be. And that's what opens up new opportunities, is that for agriculture you need water.
And not everybody has that deep ocean condition.
No, not everybody has a deep ocean condition. So if I can grab the water from the atmosphere using alternative energies, then I have something, because now I don't need to have land that has water. And for the future, any further agricultural development is going to be on land that has water. And the land that has water will be the most expensive. Okay, and it's becoming more and more scarce. And so it's a two-edged sword. So being able to take opportunities of cheaper land that doesn't have access to water and generate your own fresh water, that's a big plus.
Definitely,
And
that would be huge.
I'm a business angle, yeah.
That would be great. Where can we find more information about Dewpoint Systems?
Dewpoint Systems, www.dewpointsystems.com. Just re-renovated our website a little bit. We're still working on it, but it's up and running.
That's good. That's good. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'm glad people could hear about Dewpoint Systems and what you guys are doing in Kona. Thank you for taking the time. And thank you to all our listeners for supporting our entrepreneurs and the whole ecosystem. I think we're growing, and I look forward to seeing you next time. This is High Growth with HTDC, and I'm your host, Cindy Matsuki, on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll see you next time. Thanks.